In 1928, the most trusted parenting expert in America told mothers to stop holding their babies. His name was John Watson. He had founded an entire branch of psychology called behaviorism. He had been president of the American Psychological Association, and his book, Psychological Care of Infant and Child, became a bestseller within months. The advice inside was not vague. Never hug and kiss your children. Never let them sit in your lap. If you absolutely must, kiss them once on the forehead when they say goodnight, and shake their hand in the morning. He thought he was being kind. To Watson, a mother's affection was a slow poison. Coddle a child, he believed, and you grow a clinging, fearful, dependent adult who cannot stand on their own 2 feet. Sentiment was the enemy of a strong character. The well-run nursery was clean, scheduled, and cool, managed the way you'd manage a small, sensible business. And he had reason to be confident because 8 years earlier, he had done something that, to him, proved he understood exactly how a child's emotions worked. In the winter of 1919, Watson and his graduate assistant, Rosalie Rayner, took a baby about 9 months old, known to history only as Little Albert, and taught him to be afraid. They showed him a white rat. At first, he was curious, reaching for it, unbothered. Then, every time he reached, they struck a steel bar behind his head with a hammer. The crash terrified him. After enough pairings, the rat alone was enough. The baby would see it and fall apart. And the fear spread to a rabbit, to a dog, to a fur coat, to a Santa Claus mask. Watson had taken a calm infant and installed a phobia, on purpose, in a handful of sessions. To him, that was the whole story of a child in miniature. Emotions weren't deep, mysterious, inborn things. They were inputs. You could condition them in, you could condition them out. And a parent who understood that should manage a child's feelings the way an engineer manages a machine. Affection, in that picture, was just one more input, and a dangerous one, because it taught dependence. That belief rested on a specific theory of why a baby loves its mother at all. It went like this. A newborn wants one thing above everything else: food. The mother brings the food. Again and again, hunger is followed by the mother, relief is followed by the mother, until the baby simply learns to link her with the end of that awful, empty feeling. Love, in this view, is a byproduct of feeding, a habit. The infant loves the mother the way you'd come to love a vending machine that always pays out. Psychologists later had a nickname for it: cupboard love. Before we laugh at any of this, though, on its own terms, the advice wasn't madness. This was an era when infectious disease swept through nurseries and orphanages, when a baby who was fed and dry and barely handled was, in cold statistical fact, a baby a little less likely to catch something and die. The leading pediatrician of the previous generation had warned against too much handling, partly out of fear of germs. Keep it clean, keep it cool, keep your hands to yourself. In a world before antibiotics, that had a logic that's easy to forget now. For 30 years, almost nobody seriously tested whether the theory underneath it was even true. Then a man in Madison, Wisconsin, did. Harry Harlow was a psychologist at the University of Wisconsin who had ended up working with monkeys nearly by accident. The rat laboratory he'd been promised was gone by the time he arrived, so he built a primate lab instead. By the late 1950s, he was raising infant rhesus monkeys, and he kept seeing something the cupboard theory couldn't explain. The babies, taken from their mothers, would cling for dear life to the soft cloth pads lining their cages. Take a pad away to clean it, and an infant would come apart. It wasn't hungry. It wanted something the theory said shouldn't matter at all. So he built a test, and the design was cruel in its elegance. He gave each infant 2 artificial mothers. One was a bare wire frame, a cylinder of mesh, hard and cold,
with a crude face and a bottle of milk fixed to its chest. The other was the same wire frame wrapped in soft terry cloth, warmed by a light bulb behind it, with a gentler face and no food at all. Then he watched which one the baby chose. If the behaviorists were right, it was no contest. Bond with whoever feeds you. Love follows food. And the food was on the wire mother. That is not what happened. The infant monkeys spent nearly the entire day, 16, 17, 18 hours of it, pressed against the cloth mother who gave them nothing to eat.
They went to the wire mother only when hunger drove them there, and the way they did it gave the whole game away. A baby would keep its feet planted on the cloth mother, stretch its body across the gap, drink from the wire mother's bottle, and scramble straight back the instant it finished. It would not let go of the soft one. Feeding was a chore it ran to and fled from. Comfort was home. Harlow had a line for it. A baby, he said, cannot live by milk alone. Then he frightened them. He set a strange, loud, mechanical toy down inside the cage, the kind of thing that throws an infant monkey into a panic. Every baby ran to the same place. Not the mother with the food, the soft one. It would bury itself in the terry cloth, cling, settle, and only once it was anchored there would it turn around and risk a look at the thing that had scared it. The cloth mother was a fort. From inside it, the world was survivable. The wire mother, even the feeding wire mother, was nobody to run to.
She dispensed milk. She was not a refuge. This quietly took cupboard love apart. Contact comfort, the plain animal fact of holding and being held, was not a leftover of feeding. It was its own need, and a deeper one. The baby didn't love the mother because she fed it. Feeding and loving were two separate hungers, and when Harlow forced them to compete head-to-head, comfort won in a landslide. The implications ran straight through Watson's advice and out the far side. The affection he had told parents to ration was not a sentimental luxury. It was closer to a vitamin, something a body fails without. A British psychiatrist named John Bowlby, who was assembling a theory of human attachment at that very moment, came to see Harlow's lab in 1958, and the two stayed in close contact for years. Those monkeys, clinging to their cloth mothers, became some of the hardest physical evidence behind an idea we now hand to new parents without a second thought: that a baby needs responsive comfort the way it needs calories. Most tellings of this story stop right there, on the warm note. Love beats food. Hold your kids. They stop because of what Harlow did next, and it's the part you have to actually reckon with if you're going to tell this honestly. To find out what happens when a baby gets no love at all, Harlow began raising monkeys in total isolation. No mother, cloth or wire. No companions. Just a stainless steel chamber with sloped sides that made climbing out impossible. A device he himself named the Pit of Despair. He kept some monkeys in there for 3 months, some for 6, some for a year. They came out wrecked. They rocked for hours, clutched themselves, bit their own arms and legs, and could not bear the company of other monkeys. Many never came back at all. Females who were later made to bear young were, far too often, indifferent or violent toward their own infants. He had proved that babies need love by manufacturing, deliberately, infants who would never receive any. The same man gave us the cloth mother and the pit. People learned what was happening in that lab and were sickened, and that revulsion became one of the currents that fed the modern animal welfare movement. I'm not going to tell you the finding washes the cost away, or that the cost cancels the finding. The science was real. The suffering was real. Those two facts sit in the same room and refuse to leave, and the honest thing is to let them. There's one more piece the headline crushes flat, and it's the part that matters most for you. The cloth mother wasn't enough either. A monkey raised on the soft surrogate alone, all the warmth and contact it wanted, something to cling to day and night, but no living mother and no playmates, still grew up wrong. Jumpy. Socially hopeless, unable to read the other monkeys when it was finally let in among them. Contact beat food, yes, but a warm, towel-covered dummy did not build a whole, functioning animal. What those infants were starving for wasn't softness, it was responsiveness, something that reacts back, that answers you, that a length of terry cloth can only imitate. Comfort plus nothing is not the recipe. Comfort from someone who responds to you is. One caution before you carry any of this home. These were monkeys, not children, and that gap is the whole reason the experiment could exist at all, because no one could ethically run it on a human baby. Animal evidence always carries that asterisk. But the same pattern surfaced in the human record anyway, in the grimmest possible form. The cold, clean, badly understaffed orphanages of the mid-20th century, where infants were fed and warm and almost never picked up, and where they wasted, withdrew, and sometimes died of something that was never a virus. So here is what Harlow bought, at a price his monkeys paid in full. He took something parents had always known in their hands and turned it into something a behaviorist with a clipboard could no longer wave away. You are not spoiling your baby when you pick them up. You are not breeding helplessness when you let them fall asleep on your chest. The holding is not a treat you ration out for good behavior and withhold to toughen them up. It's a need, as ordinary and as real as hunger, and you are allowed to meet it without first checking whether you've earned the right or whether some confident man in a book swore you'd regret it. Watson, for what it's worth, left the university the same year he conditioned little Albert, in a scandal, and spent the back half of his career in advertising, teaching companies how to manufacture wanting. He told a generation of exhausted parents that the urge to comfort their own child was a weakness to be drilled out of them. He was confident. He was respected. He was wrong. The monkeys settled it.